Elara had inherited her great-aunt Beatrice's house, a sprawling, silent sentinel on the edge of the forgotten woods. It was less a home and more a mausoleum of memories, each dust-shrouded object a relic from a life Elara barely knew. Her task, to clear it out, to dismantle the past. The attic was the worst. A labyrinth of forgotten furniture, brittle newspapers, and trunks that smelled of cedar and thyme. Elara coughed, swatting away cobwebs. Then, tucked away behind a stack of yellowed paintings, she saw it, a small, intricately carved wooden box. It wasn't large, perhaps 8 inches across, dark, polished wood with a delicate, almost sinister, filigree of silver on its lid. No keyhole, no obvious latch, just a smooth, unblemished surface save for the eerie silver pattern that seemed to writhe like tangled branches. Curiosity, that oldest and most dangerous of human traits, compelled her. She ran a thumb over the cold metal, a strange, faint hum seeming to vibrate beneath her skin. As she lifted it, a tiny, almost imperceptible click echoed in the quiet attic. The lid, which had appeared sealed, now lay a fraction of an inch ajar. Inside, nestled on faded velvet, was a miniature ballerina, frozen in a graceful pirouette. Her dress was a ghostly white, and her face, though finely painted, held an expression of profound, eternal sorrow. Elara's breath hitched a music box, but what kind of melody could such a sad figure inspire? As if on cue, a faint, almost inaudible tinkling began, a single, high-pitched note hanging in the stagnant air. The music box had found a permanent home on Elara's nightstand. She couldn't explain why she kept it. Its strange melody, which seemed to play randomly and without input, had a subtle, hypnotic quality. At first it was just soft, fleeting notes, barely audible over the wind outside. Then it grew bolder. One night, Elara jolted awake. The room was dark, but a full, melancholic tune was weaving through the silence. The ballerina spun slowly, her tiny form casting long, distorted shadows under the moonlight filtering through the window. Elara reached out, heart hammering, but as her fingers brushed the cold wood, the music abruptly stopped. The ballerina froze. The incidents grew more frequent. Doors Elara swore she'd locked would creak open. Shadows in her peripheral vision elongated, twisting into impossible shapes. She'd hear whispers, faint and just beyond the threshold of her hearing, always seeming to emanate from the direction of the music box. Sleep became a luxury she could no longer afford. Every creak of the old house, every sigh of the wind, seemed to merge with the music box's eerie tune, becoming a duet sung by the house itself. She tried to close the lid, to silence it, but it resisted. It seemed to have no mechanism for closing. No matter how she pushed, it remained slightly open, like a silent, waiting mouth. Her own reflection, caught in the polished wood, seemed paler each day, her eyes shadowed, haunted. She began to wonder if the music wasn't just playing for her, but to her. Desperation gnawed at Elara. She needed help, a rational explanation. She called her friend, Marcus, her voice hoarse, with sleepless nights and creeping dread. Marcus, you have to believe me. It's doing things. The music box, it's alive. The line crackled, then went dead. She tried again. No dial tone. The internet on her phone flickered, then died. A sudden, violent thunderstorm erupted outside, the house plunging into darkness. She stumbled, searching for a flashlight, her hand brushing against the music box. The melody, no longer faint, swelled, a symphony of sorrow that vibrated through the floorboards. A cold, unseen force pushed past her, rustling the curtains. Objects on shelves began to rattle, then fall, shattering on the floor. Elara screamed, backing away, but the sound was swallowed by the house, by the music. She could feel eyes on her, a chilling presence that wasn't just observing, but judging. The ballerina on the nightstand spun wildly, her delicate form a blur, the music reaching a frantic crescendo that seemed to echo inside Elara's very skull. She wanted to run, to flee this malevolent place, but a sudden, heavy pressure built in her chest, rooting her to the spot. It wasn't physical. It was a profound soul-deep lethargy, a crushing despair that made every muscle ache, every thought impossible. The house was locking her in. The music box, now emitting a soft, pulsating light, had become her jailer. With a chilling resolve born of terror, Elara knew she couldn't simply escape. She had to understand. She tore through Beatrice's old studies, desperate for answers. Buried deep in a locked desk, she found a brittle, leather-bound diary, its pages filled with elegant, faded script. It belonged to Eleanor Vance, the original owner, and a name Elara now faintly remembered from whispered family legends. The entries spoke of loneliness, of a desperate desire for companionship after a tragic loss, then of a gift. She'd received a music box. It promised solace. It whispered forgotten melodies. It filled the silence. But soon, The entries shifted. Eleanor spoke of the music box demanding more, of shadows in her mirrors, of loved ones fading from her memory, until only the box remained. A specific entry sent a jolt of ice through Elara. It wants sustenance, not of flesh, but of light, of joy. It feeds on happiness, twisting it into despair. It promised me a companionship, but it took everything. I must give it the final piece, my own song. The final page described a ritual, a closing of the melody to trap the entity within. But something had clearly gone wrong. Elara looked from the diary to the music box on her nightstand. The ballerina, always sorrowful, now seemed to smile faintly. The silver filigree on the lid wasn't just tangled branches. It was a complex sigil, an intricate prism, or perhaps an equally intricate key. Eleanor had trapped something, but had she trapped herself with it? Or worse, had she failed, leaving the entity free to wait for another host? The answer was chillingly clear. Eleanor hadn't trapped the entity. She had become its final offering. Her life force, her song, forever bound to the box. The sigil was a tether, not a prison. And now, it was Elara's turn. The music box pulsed with an aggressive rhythm. The ballerina spun so fast, she was a blur. Her movements no longer graceful but frantic, a desperate dance. Elara felt her own energy draining, a coldness spreading from her limbs to her core. The whispers were no longer indistinct. They were a chorus of voices, lamenting, demanding, feeding. She saw glimpses of other faces, forgotten, consumed by the box, their eyes empty and terrified. She remembered Eleanor's last entry, to close the melody. One must become it. It wasn't about shutting the box. It was about offering her essence to complete the cursed cycle. With a final, desperate surge of will, Elara stumbled towards the nightstand. The air grew heavy, thick with unseen presences. The voices screamed. She'd reach for the box, not to destroy it, but to embrace it. Her fingers grazed the spinning ballerina. A searing coldness enveloped her. The room blurred. The voices crescendoed, then faded, replaced by a single, sweet, haunting note from the music box. It was her note, her song. It was the last thing she heard as the light left her eyes. Days later, Marcos, worried, sick, finally broke down the door. The house was quiet, strangely clean. Dust had settled, but not in a way that suggested neglect, but rather a finality. He found the music box on the nightstand, its lid slightly ajar. The tiny ballerina inside spun slowly, serenely, to a delicate, unending melody. Her phaso, finely painted, held an expression of profound, eternal sorrow. And if you listened closely, very closely, past the tinkling notes, you might just hear another faint whisper woven into the music, calling for the next song.